Welcome to Shul.com. We are learning from PeNiNe Halacha, the halachot of Hanukkah. Tiknu Chachamim להדליק נרות בשמונת ימי Chanukah. The rabbis made a takana that a person should light 8 candles on the days of Hanukkah. Shem hayamim shebahem chagagu Yisrael behodu laHashem. It was the day that Israel celebrated and they gave thanks to God al she'azah lehem lenatzech et hayevanim, in order to win the Greeks in battle. L'shachared et Yerushalayim, to liberate Jerusalem, v'taher et Bet HaMikdash, and to purify the Bet HaMikdash from the desecration that the Greeks had done. We had mentioned that the Greeks started to bring non-kosher animals. They would bring pigs onto it, and they also made it into a bet zonot. So ubayamim elu delek hashemen b'menorat hamikdash b'derech netz. So one of the miracles is that the oil lasted the 8 days. It's interesting to note that if you actually look in the Ala Nisim, B'mei Matitya or Matityahu, depending on how you read it, it actually does not mention the miracle of the oil. If you look at the Sefarim Achitzonim on Sefer Maccabee or Sefer Maccabee, there's Maccabee 1 and 2. So today, the last few hundred years, they started naming it Sefer HaChashmonaim, but the original name was Sefer Maccabee. And there's also Megillat Antiochus. But when you look at the Sefarim in and of themselves, none of them mention the miracle of the oil. That's not to say that the miracle did not happen. It just was not that the Hachamim were putting that as the 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐃. It seems that the 𝐂𝐒𝐎𝐍𝐿 was the miracle of God helping us win the battle and to take hold from the powerful Greek nation that had been in power at the time. They were in power close to 180 years, and for 3 years they had the full control of the Bet HaMikdash. Even though it's a mitzvah from the rabbi, we say Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu ladlik ner Hanukkah. That we say asher kiddeshanu. Normally that's reserved for mitzvot deoraita, but here it's a mitzvah derabanan. It's actually one of the 7 mitzvot derabanan, the 613 in the Torah. And then there's 7 derabanan. Interesting also to note is that there is no consensus on the 613 mitzvot. There are close to 10 different sfarim, 10 different opinions of what the 613 are, and they oftentimes argue in each other. Furthermore, even on the Sheva mitzvot b'nei Noach, there's also arguments as to which one they are. But Hanukkah, actually, according to all opinions, does fall out as a mitzvah derabanan, and it gets that asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav on those 7 mitzvot. We were not commanded from the Torah. How do we say vitzivanu if it's not a mitzvah from the Torah, but rather from the rabbis? So the rabbis actually have the permission to be able to record extra mitzvot. He's asking, so how do we do this? Because they actually are allowed to. It says in Devarim Yud Zayin Yud Aleph 17-11 in Devarim, Al Pi Torah Asher Yorucha Ve'al Mishpat Asher Yomru Lecha, on the commandments and on the Torah they teach you, Lo Tastur Min Davar Asher Yigidu Lecha Yamin U'Shmol. Don't go away from it, right or left. This is talking about the Hazal, about a time where Hazal had this power. It's not that every single individual that gets a semicha and passes a test now has the ability to tell you Lo tasur min davar shegil echad yamin u'shmol. That's reserved for a certain time and Hazal, when they had a consensus to make these laws. Ve'od ne'emar sham in Lamed Bet Dash Zayin Zechor Yemot Olam Binu Shenot Dor Vador She'al Avicha Ve'yegetcha Zekenecha Ve'yomru Lach. And it brings another pasuk to remember the days of old, generation to generation. Ask your father, he'll tell you. Your zikenim, your wise ones, your older ones, your elders, and they will tell you. On Shabbat Kaf Gimel, Amud Aleph says, Kedei Liskor Lefarsim et Haneh She'asa Hashem Bimei Habayit Sheni Tiknu Chachamim La'adlik Nerot B'Shmonat Yemei Chanukah. And Masechet Shabbat 23 tells us that because of the miracle we have to light the candle. It's interesting. The Gemara there says, Hazahir ben Havlan banim tamidei chachamim. Someone who's careful with the candle, with the light, And over there the discussion is on two types of candle. One of them is the candle of lighting for Friday night for Shabbat, and the other one is the Chanukiah, because according to the opinions, lighting one candle for either one, you would be 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐃, and then their other levels are the higher levels, which we're going to get into. Nashim hayavot b'mitzvah k'gevarim. Women are commanded on the mitzvah. Even though it's a time-sensitive commandment from the rabbis in that it has to be done at a certain time, it can't be lit during the day, it has to be lit at night from certain time frames. So because of this, they should be patur. They should not have to. From time-specific commandments. They were also part of the miracle. And so therefore they also have to do the mitzvah. He says later on that a lady doesn't have to do it in and of herself. I know that amongst Ashkenazim, every single one in the household gets their own menorah. Amongst Sfaradim, the husband could light and be yotzeh for the wife and for the family. It's interesting to note there's a few reasons, because we also have the story of Yehudit and how she beheaded the Antiochus by giving him to drink wine, to have him to eat salty cheeses, help him fall asleep, and to seemingly then behead him, and they ended up winning the battle. Furthermore, there was also the daughter of the Hashmonaim, where every single girl had to be taken by the Hegmon when she had gotten married. And seemingly here, she knew that in another day she was getting engaged and going to be married, she would have to go. And she seemingly revealed herself in an immodest way to her brothers and her father at one of these events where the family was together and they wanted to kill her. And she said back to them, I don't understand you guys. You know what, I'm going to be getting married soon, and another day this Greek Hellenist Hegmon, this governor, is going to end up going to rape her, and you simply don't care about it, but you're worried about siniut, of how I might take off my part of my dress when I'm in front of you guys. I'm trying to make a point here, that if you guys cared so much, you would stop this. But every single girl of Klal Yisrael that's getting married has to go through this type of rape that was being done on a mass scale. If you really cared, then let's see you cared. And that woke them up. And because of that, because of these two women that ended up doing this, they ended up being a tremendous part of the mitzvah. It's well known that it says this many times, that our forefathers were always meritorious for righteous women, that were at the forefront of doing what is right and arguing the point, sometimes even in front of men, in order to get them to make that change. And seemingly we see from this mitzvah the value of the Jewish woman, and in her gung-ho attitude of making sure things are kept proper. All the locations that they told you to light the Chanukiah, it was in order to allow others to see the miracle and to know about it. They said do it near the door. That's where people come in and go out, they'll see it. The other one is the window, a window that goes out to the public domain, so that those that are passing by will see the candles. They said to light the candles from the time of sunset, that at that point, when it's sunset and starting to get dark, the candles will have the most potency in its visibility. It's going to get dark and you'll be able to see the candle, as opposed to during the daytime, and where the sunlight would not allow it to have its full luminance. And why at that time of sunset? Because that's when people start to close up shop, they start to get home, start to walking. So when they're walking and they're seeing in the windows or by the doorways or outside, they'll start to see this, and they will have pirsum hanes of the miracle of that was done. Ulam, ena pirsum larabim me'akev et mitzvah. Not doing pirsum nisa and advertising this miracle does not affect the mitzvah in any way. V'gam Yehudi shegar levado b'mkom shomem, Let's say a Jew is living alone in a place that's desolate. He also has to be zocher the nes for himself. Pirsum nisa is also for the individual in his own family, and so he would still need to light it. This is a very, very big mitzvah. Even a poor man doesn't have money to buy candles. He should go beg to have enough money to light a candle. Or he would to sell even some garments he has in order to buy nerot Hanukkah. It's important to note that the minimum mitzvah is 1 candle in a vessel. So if he has 8 candles in a little glass cup, he'd be yotzeh the opinion. On many other mitzvot, if a person is an ones, he doesn't have to go begging people, he doesn't have to sell anything he owns. Because there is pirsum hanes, it's more important. But rather, the poor person doesn't have to make a hidud, a splendid, beautiful mitzvah. You could do 1 candle every single day if that's his difficulty, or if he's in a place where he can't travel with a whole Chanukiah and with all the candles. Of course, it's better if he could, but if it's difficult and it might take away from other things, then he doesn't have to. It's brought in Shulchan Aruch, Tavresh 𝐂𝐈𝐓𝐇. It's also brought down by the Ramah and the few other opinions that they bring here. So here we discussed the basics of the mitzvah of the Hadaka Nerot. The next part is the mitzvah HaNerot u'minhag min HaMehadrin. What is the number of candles and what is the custom and the mitzvah? Chiba hamiyuchedet noada lemitzvot hadakat nerot Hanukkah. Normally, when it comes to mitzvot, there is the normal level and then there's the better, or the mehadrin. When it comes to Hanukkah, you actually have 3 different levels. Chovat HaMitzvah, the requirement, the mehadrin, the better, and mehadrin min mehadrin, the best of the best. And it's interesting that the mitzvah that everyone took upon themselves is the mehadrin min ha-mehadrin, the best of the best. The minimum is 1 candle for the entire household every single night, for a total of 8. So what is the other custom? Where you light 1 candle for every person in the household. Not every soul, but rather every soul that is bar mitzvah, So if there's, let's say, 5 children, 3 of them are above bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, and then 2 adults, you would light 5, not 7. So it's for every person in the household that is a gadol. The dugma, אם היו בני הבית 4 מדליקים בכל הימים 4 נרות, ועל ידי כך מבטאים את ההשתתפות של כולם במצווה. So if there's 4 people in the household, they're all gedolim, they're older, over bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, they would light 4 candles every night in that case. והמהדרין, מן המהדרין, the best of the best, מדליקים נרות לפי מספר הימים. ונכנחו בזה חכמים. So the next option would be to light the amount of candles equal to the days. And on this one, on this mehadrin min hadrin, there is a argument, as like most Jewish halachot and customs, there is machlokot. And here you have Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. Bet Shammai omrim bayom harishon madlik shemona nerot. You say the first night you light 8. Mikan ve'elech pochet ve'olech ad shebayom ha'achronon madlik ner echad. And then at the last day you will have 1. Kach shemispar hanerot keneged hayamim hanichnasim. That the candles are in the days that are coming in. Now, the other option is that on the first day, according to Bet Shammai, the first day you light 8. You still have another 8 left. So every day you're counting what is left over on the holiday. because there's only one day left. On the last day, you would only have one candle. Bet Hillel omrin. Bet Hillel has a different opinion. Bayom Rishon madlik ner echad. The first day you light one candle. Mosif bechol yom ner echad. Every day you add one. Ad shebayom aharon madlik shemona nerot. The last day you light 8. Kach shemispar hanerot keneged yamim hayotzim. And it's the other way. It's the days that are going have gone by. Shebechol yom madlikim nerot kefi mispar yamim shahanes nimshach. That every day you light for the days where the miracle was extending itself. ובזה מבטאים את ההתגדלותו של הנס, שכל יום נוסף שהדליקו את המנורה שבמקדש מאותו פח שמן קטן, הנס גדול יותר. And the reason for this is that every day that it lasted past the first day was an even bigger miracle. So according to Bet Hillel's opinion, is that by the seventh day, the fact that it had not extinguished in the 7 previous days was a tremendous miracle. באופן זה גם מעלים בקודש עד שביום השמיני מגיעים אל השיא ומדליקים 8 נרות, הלכה כבית הלל, as brought down Shabbat כ"א עמוד ב' and שולחן ערוך אור החיים תרע"א, that at the 8th day you will have the 8 candles and you go up מעלים בקודש, which means you grow in spirituality over the time. Then you have Zot Hanukkah, Zot Hanukkah Mizbeach, which is the Torah that's read on that day, and that's the 8th day. It's interesting to note that Shammai's opinion actually has a lot more depth than what is generally taught, or at least taught in masses. There's a lot of connections between Sukkot and Hanukkah. If you look at Sefer Maccabee, they actually bring down that they were not allowed to celebrate the holiday of Sukkot, and when they have finally been able to on Hanukkah, they set up Sukkot on that part of the holiday. The Hazal did not mention this. They don't talk about it. It's only brought down in the Sefer HaChitzonim of the Sefer Maccabees. And it's interesting to note that there's more to the connection, because when you look at the Gemara can make a lot of connections between Sukkot and Hanukkah. It's the only time of the year where you have 8 days of saying Halil with the Beracha. You read the Torah every single one of those days. Furthermore, there's a sigula from Rab Salman Musafi that you should take the schach that's left over from the sukkah and then save them, dry them, and use them inside the cotton wicks that you light the Chanukiah. So this year we saved some of the palm trees and leaves, and we ended up drying them, and we gave them out here to the kahal, where they're able to put inside of their wicks a little piece of the schach in order to give zechut to Rav Salman Musafi, who taught this. Furthermore, besides the 8th and the 8th of the 8 days, it's the last holiday before Hanukkah. And furthermore, Bet Shammai's argument also has more depth, because when you look at the holiday of Sukkot, we start with a certain amount of korbanot, 14 korbanot, then it goes 13, 12, 11, and it ends up going down until you have a total of 70, and then plus 1 for Am Yisrael, and they bring 70 bulls, 70 ox. And you could see from here that when it came to Sukkot, there is an inyan of being pochet, of taking from more and going down as each day, until the last day where there's just one, Sef Ezura, which is Am Yisrael. On the last day, Shemini Atzeret, where all the other nations brought their korbanot, they were all covered, they were all blessed from the Bet HaMikdash and the korbanot on the Mizbeach. But now is Israel, Sef Ezura, the last one standing. And so there is a big inyan that Bet Shammai has depth to it. And of course, the Chachamim do bring down that when the Mashiach comes and Eliyahu Nabi Zachur Latov arrives in our time, that we are going to do a lot of halachot according to Bet Shammai. So there is a lot of depth. And today, of course, halachot like Bet Hillel, but one should never dismiss the other counter opinions in the Gemara. I found that according to one of my rabbis is that when you're learning those opinions, you should learn them so well that you can defend the counter opinion. Not to say, okay, halakha is like this, and there we go, we're done. No, look at the counter opinion. How much can you back it up? How much can you prove that the other opinion is more right than the one that's halakha l'maaseh, and still say halakha is like the rabbim, yachid rabbim, halakha rabbim, we take the rabbim. Okay, but can we put more depth and more understanding as to how Bet Shammai came up with this? And so it's interesting. בפועל יוצא שמדליקים בימי שמונה ימי חנוכה ל"ו נרות. We see that at the end we end up lighting 36 candles total. That's without the shamash. Then it would be 36 plus 8. and then you have 44. ועוד נוהגים רבים להדליק בכל יום נר נוסף לשמש, כדי שאם יצטרכו לאור, ישתמשו לאור השמש, שנרות חנוכה אסורים בהנאה. And so why do they even light the shamash? They light the shamash because in case someone were to use the light, then they would be able to use it from the shamash and not to have hana'ah from the other candle lights. But we separate it, we raise it. And Rav Musafi brings down that one custom could be if you can use virgin or extra virgin olive oil for the candles on the Chanukiah, you should maybe use canola oil or cheaper oil for the one of the shamash, so that they aren't on the same level. And they're also not on the same level physically in the Menorah. They should be on a different level. We make it higher. Because if you want to do the mitzvah of mehadrin, you have to make sure that the candles that are being lit are well seen and understood as being for the holiday. And the number of candles is talking about the depth of the depth of the nerot on the Hanukkah, of being able to see the numbers of the menorah and the Chanukiah. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'Amen.
Friends.